episode 133 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from our virtual studio by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is willing to play hurt today, John Scott Sloat.
Doc, what's going on? It's been a minute.
It has. We've not been in the studio recording since like the last week of June.
Yeah, and we're approaching the third week of July. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's been a while.
It has. And in that time, you have vacationed.
Yep. Was down in St. Augustine, Florida. Had a good time. Good, relaxing break from the rigors of life.
Okay. Is the new job already just working you over?
No, I mean, it's been a lot of learning, and we're also in the midst of hiring a supervisor for me. So we're still working on those things, and I don't think we'll fully ramp up and go until we have that supervisor in place. So we're in a bit of a holding pattern there now. So it's a pretty good time to go on vacation, as well as a good time to get quarantined. So yeah, here we are.
Yes, indeed. Looks like we've hit another round of virus spread, though. It feels like we're sort of accepting this as this is the new normal now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had to take a picture of my test and send it to our HR department and all those lovely things.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
So, as we get started here, I think we should probably just let's do our standard. If you want to get in touch with the show, let's start there.
It's been a while.
We're still out of practice. I mean, yes, if you want to connect with the show, we are on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. We are on Facebook and on YouTube, Various and Sundry Podcast. And we would love for you to go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and a review on whatever platform you choose to access the show. And now I think we're at a point where we can probably just mention briefly, there's going to be some changes to the podcast. One that hopefully no one notices, and that is we're changing our podcast service so that
so
the
basically
service that we
the service that distributes the podcast. So we upload it there, and it sends it to Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all those places. We're switching that, and hopefully there's not a huge change for the average listener.
Yeah, hopefully there's no noticeable difference in that sense, that it just shows up in your feed every Tuesday like it's supposed to, and you don't even notice it.
But that's next week, right?
That hopefully the next episode will be good to go on that. The difference that our listeners will notice is, I think starting in August is when we're going to try this. Starting in August, we are going to incorporate commercial breaks into the podcast.
And because Doc, why on earth would we do that? Because I personally hate commercial breaks.
Well, because we need some filthy lucre. That's essentially why. This new podcast service that we're using will allow us to insert some commercial breaks and allow us to monetize. And it's not that we are in any way unrealistically thinking, oh my gosh, you and I are going to make tons of money and retire early and, leave our current occupations. But it would be nice if we made enough to cover to offset the cost of doing the pod, the cost of the service we're going to use. It also might open up some opportunities for us to consider doing some merchandise or things like that. So some of the things that we've thought about doing, I think would be served by us being able to monetize the pod a little bit. And the bottom line is, look, I'm no fan of commercials either, but in most scenarios, it's pretty easy to just tap the jump 30 seconds ahead and resume where you were.
Yeah. 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 And it, also gives us the added benefit of being able to add stacking Benjamins. As you and I record the podcast, we can just stack $100 bills as we're recording.
Absolutely. The money will just start rolling in at this point. So in any case, so hopefully in August, I think that's when we'll start that. And I think realistically, the plan is probably to insert 2 commercial breaks in the podcast and go from there. So we'll see how that works. And I think we should probably clarify that I'm not sure what kind of control we have over who advertises. I think that's something we're still sorting out in terms of who gets the privilege of advertising on the Various and Sundry podcast.
Yeah. I think our hope is it's not places on the Las Vegas Strip or sports gambling. Those 2 seem to be probably ones we just sort of want to keep out.
Yes, I hope that's the case. So we'll have to rely upon our listeners to let us know if they get some unsavory advertisements as a result of this. All right, so we have not recorded since, like I said, the end of June, and so there's been a few things that have happened in the sports world since then. Like, for example, there was a seismic shift in college football that took place while we were gone. This is an example of a story that really came out of nowhere. I know you are not a big college football guy, but I'm sure you saw this, obviously.
I did hear of this one, yes.
And this is one of those stories that literally, it was in the morning, you heard like the first rumored reports. Hey, USC and UCLA are going to join the Big Ten. And by like middle of the afternoon, it was like, it's done. So whatever they were doing to keep this thing secret was terrifically successful in terms of making this happen.
So this feels like a really big deal, right? Those are both, oh my goodness, Pac-12? Is that the conference out there?
Yep.
Pac-12 schools joining what used to be sort of a regional Midwest conference.
Yes.
And, adding Nebraska, Rutgers. Rutgers was a stretch.
Yes, and Maryland.
This feels like an even bigger stretch for the regional Midwest conference.
Yeah, it's now a national conference. There's no more regional here. But I think now with these additions, the Big Ten will have a team in what was it? It's like 7 of the 8 biggest media markets in the country. And that right there is your answer as to why this is happening.
Which one are they missing? Houston? Is that the one?
It could be. I'm not sure.
I'm sure Dallas. They don't have a team in Dallas.
No. So in any case, this is all driven by college football revenue, obviously. And for those who care and might be wondering, there's a sense in which, you might think, well, why would schools like USC and UCLA want to join the Big Ten? That seems like a strange fit. And then you realize that I think USC this past year brought in about $30 million of revenue through their football program. I think the average Big Ten schools, because of their Big Ten network and their TV deal, each brought in, I think, something around $70 to $80 million a year. So you can understand why maybe USC and UCLA would say, for $40 million more a year, we can overcome the travel difficulties and the weirdness of having to be in a conference that stretches from coast to coast.
Yeah, I mean, weirdness, I think is an understatement. Like, I'm excited to see that mid-November game in at Michigan with USC or UCLA.
Yeah.
Just as I'm sure that Ohio State's excited to play UCLA, a school that I think has been known for not spending money on their program, but going to Southern California in the middle of December is going to be real nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, we're getting in the bowl season at that point, right? So probably
more November. Yeah.
Yeah.
But where it really gets weird is when you're talking about basketball and all these other sports where, how are they going to manage the weirdness of, say, the women's field hockey team, traveling across the country to, when UCLA visits Rutgers, like how often are they going to do that? Or even think about basketball.
Oh yeah.
They're playing 2-3 games a week, and you have a Tuesday night 9:00 tip. Kids are already not getting back from those trips until like 4 a.m. Now you just wonder, are they going to even get back in time the next day for class at all?
You wonder if the pandemic, with the advent of the Zoom classroom and Zooming students into the classroom, has made something like this a little bit more feasible, where students can now, I don't need to be in Southern California for my classes. I can just Zoom in from Columbus or from New Jersey or wherever they're playing.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I do wonder if, they'll figure out a way to make this work, just because, quite frankly, there's just too much money involved.
Yeah,
just too much money. Yeah.
So my understanding is this is sort of a hurry up and wait story, right? This is they're going to join the Big Ten in 2 years or something along those lines, right? There's a time period, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Is it 2 years?
Fall of 24, I think, is when that is supposed to happen.
Okay, so 1 year. Okay.
I think it's fall of 24. Yeah, so it'll be fall of 22, fall of 23, so 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
Before that changes.
It'll be interesting. Big Ten championship for basketball. Is that in Indianapolis right now?
It rotates. It goes Indianapolis. It goes Chicago. It's been in DC. It's been in New York City. They try to rotate it around to catch the media markets.
Well, add LA to the list.
Oh yeah. Eventually that's going to be out there for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
We should move on. NBA free agency. Are your Knicks doing anything?
There's talks of them. So this isn't free agency. This is there's talks of them getting Donovan Mitchell, which is what I've heard, which would be very exciting. I don't know if you know this, but Donovan Mitchell's dad works for the Mets, so Donovan Mitchell shows up to Mets games all the time, and so there's a lot of chatter that certainly the fans want him in New York because he loves the Mets.
Yeah. Well, that'd be a big splash if the Knicks could pull that off. What about your Mets?
I think we just entered the All-Star break. Pete Alonso goes for his 3rd home run derby win in a row. So that's tonight. So by the time this drops, we'll know the results.
Okay.
And then they have the 2nd best record ever for a Mets team at the break. So the only team that beat them is the 86 team, and it was by one game. So that team had 59 wins at the break. This one has 58. So yeah, they're doing just fine. There's talk that they are going to trade, or they're one of 4 or 5 teams in the mix for Juan Soto. Have you seen the Juan Soto news?
No.
Juan Soto. Do you know who Juan Soto is? Is that a familiar name to you?
I don't think it is.
Okay, so it was like 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, he won the World Series for the Washington Nationals.
Okay.
He's been an MVP. Well, they have just been a dumpster fire of a team, traded away just about everybody, and he's really the only thing left. They offered him, and he's 23 this right now.
Okay.
And he's been a major leaguer for 2 or 3 years. He was offered a 15-year, $440 million deal.
Okay.
That he turned down.
And wait, was this from the Nationals or?
This was from the Nationals.
Okay,
they
trying to
offered him
lock
this
him
deal.
in. Yeah.
Trying to lock him in for the next, decade and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. At 23. Could you imagine that kind of cash at 23, by the way? Anyway, he turned it down. And so the Nationals go, okay, we're going to trade you. And it's just like an all-out bidding war right now because they will trade him this season and get probably the top 3 to 5 prospects in anybody's system. And then he's going to sign for 12 to 15 years for probably $600 million is what I he's going to be a half $500 million player.
That's absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's wildly good. Has won a MVP, won a batting title. I mean, he's the only one really right now in the Nationals organization worth watching.
Yeah, I can't even wrap my brain around that kind of money. I mean, obviously he's convinced that, he's going to make at least as much, if not more, elsewhere. I mean, I get, the whole taxes thing, right? So even with that number, if it's $600 million, you get half of it, right? Maybe,
Right.
Maybe like 2/5 of it, like 40% of it by the time you get taxes and agent fees and all that sort of stuff. But
Still.
yeah, I mean, you can still do a lot with over $200 million in take home.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be one wealthy man at the end of this.
Yeah, I'd say so.
At least hopefully. I hear a lot of these guys end up broke because they just get used to so much cash coming in that they just spend it all. And then they're broke once they're done playing.
Yeah, but you would think that this kind of money, like this is just such remarkable levels of money. But still, I'm sure you can find ways to spend it. But
yeah,
crazy.
Who was it? Adrian Peterson for his 30th birthday flew 100 people to Las Vegas, all first class, and gave each of them $1,000 to spend on gambling at a Las Vegas casino. Something like that. That's a way to blow that kind of money.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Last sports note here. Did you see Tiger Woods basically more or less kind of made some comments indicating that this past weekend might have been his last British Open?
I saw some chatter about it, but don't know the full story. So he came out and said, "This is my last British Open."
He didn't,
or gave some kind of coded message.
Yeah, I mean, it was at St. Andrews where he's won, I think, 2 of his 3 British Opens, and he didn't make the cut. And so I think from his perspective, he said something to the effect of, "This kind of felt like it might be the last time that I'm here, or the last time that I do something like this." So it was more than cryptic, but less than direct.
That feels hard to be actionable after you lose badly at a place you used to be really successful. I think there'd be a pretty big letdown after that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. That it's just, I mean, for your entire lifetime and for most of my adult lifetime, I mean, Tiger Woods has just been the dominant guy, and now he's clearly turned a pretty significant corner in his career. He getting that car crash. What was that? 18 months ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, maybe 2 years. Yeah,
seems to have been kind of the final dagger to him being able to come back and compete at any significant level with any consistency.
Yeah. That and the knee surgeries. Like, it feels like the car accident was the final straw. But before that,
Yeah.
it was the knees. It was his insanity workouts with being a Navy SEAL and all those things. And
Yeah. Yes.
well,
All
we
right.
ready to move on to a main topic here?
We definitely need to do that here. So today we are talking about Sloat's rules for travel. So, John, give us a little backstory on where these came from and how they came about.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the Grace College ecosystem, which I can't imagine that a ton of our listeners are, although I'm sure most, or lots, I'm not sure. But Grace has the requirement that each student goes on some sort of cross-cultural trip before they graduate.
Yep.
And so I've been leading these trips. I think, Doc, I think I led my first one when I was 23. So I've been leading these trips for 10-ish years,
Okay.
which is wild to think about. I hadn't contextualized it like that. My goodness. And basically, I came up with these. I mean, the number of them fluctuate from time to time, but these 4 rules basically that help groups specifically.
Yeah. So you created these, and then others kind of found out about them in our global office and said, "Hey, let's sort of codify these to some degree and use them
Yeah.
with all of our trips at some level." So,
and I've had trip leaders come to me and tell me, "Oh my gosh, we use this rule all the time," or "We talked about this thing all the time, and it really helped our attitude or perspective or things like that." So
yeah.
yeah, it was really helpful. It's been something that has been really, really good, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, there will be some application, obviously, to travel in general. Some of these are a little bit more specific to what we do with our go encounter trips. Like the first rule, for example. John, what is the first rule here?
So the first rule for a Grace College or even really any group trip is this is not vacation.
Okay.
I'll never forget the very first trip I ever led. I took 23 students to inner city Philadelphia with me. And I was maybe 2 years older than all of them, right? This was my very first trip, and we road tripped it all the way out there. And I remember we were in 15 passenger vans, and everybody's luggage was everywhere, And I just remember there was luggage, and I was driving one of the vans. There's luggage in between the 2 front seats. And I just remember this student, I couldn't even tell you her name, but she kicked her feet up on that luggage and just sort of leaned back and goes, "I'm on vacation." And I don't know if you're aware of this, but inner city Philadelphia is not a place to vacation.
It's really not. No.
So, I try to communicate graciously, like, "Hey, we are going to serve, we are going to work, we are going to get to know people. We want to understand the culture, the neighborhood, these different things, even do some pre-evangelism, doing things like that. This is not a vacation. This is not for you to kick your feet up and relax with a book." So that's rule number 1. That is not vacation.
Yeah, and I think for our purposes with Grace students, that's an important thing to clarify, just so that they have the right expectations, especially when it comes to, we have specific things we're going to do, and there's a purpose to them. That doesn't mean that we won't go do occasional vacation-like things. Like, we might say, "Hey, this afternoon, you have the afternoon off. You can go hang out at the beach, or you can go do this touristy thing that you wanted to do, or whatever." But that's not the purpose of the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we ready for the second rule here?
Let's do it.
Okay. So this rule, came from a student that needed to know like every little detail of thing that we were going to do. And I refused to give it to them. And so I just said, we're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it. And that student just repeated that to me anytime they asked me a question. They would go, John, what are we doing next? Never mind. We're just rolling with it. So that's the rule. We roll with it. Like we can have as much planned out as humanly possible. We can have, every minute of our day scheduled. But things always change when you're there. Things always change when you're on the ground. And at some point, you just got to roll with it and be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. And even this is something where, especially depending on personality type, if you're the person who's like, I got to have everything planned out. The reality is that's just not realistic on most, especially international trips.
Yeah.
Where you have cultural differences and, the logistics of figuring out where things are or how to get places or how things work in certain locations. Things take longer than you expect them to.
Or I remember you and I were trying to find restaurants on the other side of the world for us to eat at. And there's just something simpler about being there and being able to Google something than it is to like be on the other side of the world trying to do that. And so, yes, we roll with it. We have a plan. We make a plan. We try to stick to that plan, but things got to change sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I know even we as leaders have often had to be very adaptable in terms of switching things up. You have this plan of, we'll go do this on this day or at this time. And then you realize that's actually not going to work itself out very well. So I have to go to I was going to say plan B, but oftentimes by then it's like plan E.
Yes. Like weather's a major one that just constantly changes and moves things around for us. Yes.
Let's go to our next one here, John.
Okay. This next one, I can't even remember where I came up with this, but it's had a couple different iterations. But basically, we love everything.
I seem to remember this one as everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome. We love everything. Yeah. Positivity, no complaining is the negative form of this, right?
Yes.
But we love everything. If there's a nasty, I remember when I was sitting in a restaurant and somebody brought out like stewed horse hoof for our students to eat. And I just saw the girl's face. I'm like, you love it. You love everything. We love everything. So whether it's the rats running up and down the subway lines or whether it's getting fried chicken at a shady looking stand, you love everything.
Yes. And just to clarify, it's not like you don't give space for students to express frustrations or discomfort or things like that. I mean, there are other contexts for that where students can express, we're not just saying, stuff all your feelings and emotions and experiences and just suck it up. That's part of the beauty of the debriefing time oftentimes that we have is being able to process some of those realities of, yes, I was very frustrated when this happened or whatever it might be.
Yeah, when we had to walk 6 or 7 miles. Absolutely. There are times for those things, but just a consistent attitude. There's nothing that kills a trip quicker than just a consistent attitude of complaining.
Yes.
That can be hard.
Yes. I remember leading a trip to Greece and Turkey and having a student on that trip who had severe culture shock. And this would have helped a little bit, but I'm not even sure this one would have been enough to overcome the train wreck that ensued from that. So
yeah. And sometimes it's unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
All right. This next one, I think I stole it from a guy that did like welcome ministry to church. But his mantra and my mantra to these students are make half a friend. Like you don't have to make a whole friend. You don't even have to really know the guy's or person's last name that you're speaking to. You just got to be able to talk to them. Yeah. Make half a friend. This one, our worship leader at church mocks me for. He thinks it's hysterical. But make half a friend. Get to know somebody just a little bit. You don't got to be a pen pal. You don't got to be their Facebook friend even. You just have to be able to talk to people when you're out there, and that's going to increase the value of a trip tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is where learning to ask good, thoughtful questions of people you interact with. I think in our experiences, it seems like most people that I've interacted with who are, native to whatever area we're visiting, are willing to have a conversation with you, just from the sheer fact of, you're a foreigner. But I think learning to ask some good, thoughtful questions of people about their background, about their life, what they value, what's important to them, can really be eye-opening to learn more about the place that you're visiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the rules. Those are the 4 rules that every Grace College student hears before they go out on a trip. So,
do you have any potential contenders for additions to the list of rules here?
I mean, I was trying to think them up because 5 is such a very nice number, There's something about the number 5. So I was trying to come up with a third. Probably no complaining would be the 5th one, but we love everything is kind of the positive version of that. But yeah.
I tried to think as well. The one that I thought of is really just a version of roll with it, in the sense of expect things to not go according to plan.
Yeah.
Your plan will never work flawlessly. And so be ready for it, be adaptable to it. And I think that can be a challenge for certain personality types.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Doc, we ready to move on to this day in sports history?
Let's do it.
All right. So July 19th, 2022. That's when this drops. Okay. So in 1910, Cy Young wins the 500th game 500th.
Of his. Let's try 500th.
500th. My goodness.
Game we'll blame it on the sickness.
Yeah, we'll blame it there. On the Hall of Fame career, as the Cleveland Naps beat the Washington Senators. How is that for some old teams?
Cleveland Naps. I never even knew the Cleveland
I never even
Naps
heard of that.
Existed. Yeah.
What's a nap? Is it? I mean,
I have no idea. Like, the only thing I think of is like a nap like you take in the afternoon to sleep.
Yeah. What are they saying about Cleveland with that?
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, continue. They beat the Senators 5-2
in 11 innings. Only pitcher to reach that milestone. That's good.
No one's ever going to break that wins record ever. Not even close.
No. Guys are barely breaking 200 these.
Yeah.
In the modern era. 1952. Oh goodness, I got to do Roman numerals. The 15th Summer Olympics is held in Helsinki, Finland.
Yes.
That's a good
I threw that in there because of your affinity for Helsinki.
Yeah. More coffee consumed per capita in Finland than anywhere else in the world.
Now, in your new role in advancement, have you found any ministry partners in Helsinki that you might need to visit?
That's a great question. We'll do our best to find some. I think we're going to have to go really Lutheran if we're going to find that. But
probably.
1973, New York Mets future Baseball Hall of Fame outfielder Willie Mays is named to the NL All-Star team for the 24th time. That's impressive.
Yes. Yeah, I threw that one there for you. Yeah.
My goodness. Obviously towards the end of his career there, right?
Yeah.
1990, the Cincinnati Reds, Pete Rose is sentenced to 5 months in prison, I assume, for tax evasion.
Yes. Good old Pete Rose. You think he'll ever make the Hall of Fame?
Posthumously, I think he does.
You think they'll wait till he dies and then they'll throw him in there?
Yeah, I don't think they'll give him the satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah, you think the same thing will happen with the steroids guys like Bonds and Clemens?
Yep, Bonds, Clemens. Yeah, I think so. I think posthumously, because you can't tell the story of the game without those guys. But there's also a part of it that you don't necessarily want to give them the satisfaction, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think posthumously? Is that your sense?
Probably. I mean, I feel like they will probably. I think you're right that you can't tell the story of the game without it, and but you want to avoid giving the athlete the satisfaction of that you cheated. You know, however you want to define that, to get in there. So
yeah. What do you like?
Well, as the options make clear, the pickings were pretty slim for this day. So, I mean, do you have a preference? I don't really have a preference at all.
I am between Willie Mays, 24 All-Star teams. The All-Star break is this week. And Cy Young. I mean, those are just two very impressive milestones.
I think we did Cy Young a couple weeks ago in another milestone. So let's go with Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. All right. Sounds good.
All right. One thing you liked.
Okay. So we vacationed in St. Augustine, Florida, and we were there on the 4th of July.
Now, just a clarification question here.
Yeah.
So do they call it St. Augustine down there or Augustine?
Augustine.
Okay. And does that incline you towards pronouncing the church father's name that way, or has it have any significance at all in your mind?
It has no significance. I think I go between the two pretty easily. So I don't give much thought to it. But
anyway,
we knew that St. Augustine, the town, was doing like a fireworks display and like a concert in their downtown area. And Andrew and I just kind of said, that sounds like a nightmare. Let's just go down to the beach, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and just see if we can see them, see if we can see those fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we found was hundreds and hundreds of people on the beach, up and down the beach, and fireworks going off everywhere. Like to the point where we're like, whoa, we didn't realize the people behind us were setting off fireworks, and it was just really, really cool to like look up and down the beach and see so many fireworks going off. It was pretty awesome. And we sat out there for probably 90 minutes, close to 2 hours, just watching it. It was pretty great.
Wow. Very nice.
It was awesome. How about yourself?
Very nice. I know I've got something listed, but I'm going to go a different direction.
Okay.
I'll save what I've got listed on the rundown for another week. But the week of July 4th, my in-laws came in town to get their new puppy.
Oh, yes.
So my wife found a breeder about an hour away from here to get my in-laws a new dog. It's a Bernedoodle.
Okay.
And fluffy, pretty adorable. Will eventually grow to be about 70 pounds, somewhere around there. So decent size.
Okay.
But a significant downgrade from the 160-pound monsters that they've had previously. So, but he is named Ollie, and he was quite adorable.
Okay. Very nice. So, new dogs are great.
Yeah. My in-laws still can't understand why we have not replaced Luther, our Boston Terrier. And at one point, my in-laws even tried to pin it on me being the restraining force, not my wife. saying, well, Kate, you would have one, but Matt doesn't want one. So she's like, no, we're very united on this one. Neither of us wants a dog. We're at the stage where it's kind of like with kids. We want to play with other people's kids, but then send them home at the end of the day for the real hard work of actual parenting to happen.
Oh yeah.
Same with dogs. We'll play with your dog, we'll enjoy it, but at the end of the day, we'll go home, and we won't have to pick up any of its messes, figure out what we're going to do when we travel with it, all those sorts of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So, yep. And it's been it's fun to see them with a new puppy. So,
all right, we have talked podcast updates. We have talked sports updates, college football news, NBA free agency, Mets, Tiger Woods. We've talked John Sloat's rules for travel. We talked about Willie Mays. We talked about fireworks on the beach, and we've talked about a new puppy. So I think by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.